the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. I'm going to start tonight with one brief shout out, I promise, not like last week where it was like Life Event Central. I want to say happy birthday to my cousin Tara, who is a film editor out in LA. She's the most fabulous person and I love her a lot and I hope she's had a really, really great day. And I'll tell you, she has worked with some really cool people that I only wish I could have the opportunity to meet. I mean, John Mellencamp is one of them. Oh. Yeah, I know, right? She did his movie, so. Oh, and that was before I was like really into Mellencamp, so I missed that bus, really, I did. But anyway, happy birthday, Tara. And like I said, hope you had a great day, and I miss you and I love you. And I promise that's the last one for now. Anyway, big news this week. In the animal world, locally, a local ACO was arrested and charged with 4 counts of animal cruelty. That would be in Wolcott. A hidden camera caught his actions and confirmed suspicions over the course of a couple of months that something was amiss. And it's just unbelievable, but it happens, posing the question, who protects the animals that the people who are supposed to protect the animals, really, who protects them from those people? Unfortunately, it's not an uncommon practice. Although there are shining stars among the animal control officer world, and we'll touch on that. But these dogs in Wolcott were slammed in kennel doors, hosed, and sprayed with cleaning chemicals. So you're talking, physical abuse. There were some talk of neglect, some talk of that they were taunted, and from what I personally know, I believe the man was a little kill happy, preferring not to adopt them out and, just do away with them. And that's my personal spin on things, nothing to do with the actual legal case against him. The conditions there, I've never been to that pound, but I've heard that the conditions were less than prime. As far as, cleanliness and keeping up with just things in general. And I think that's part of what was in the news story, too. Lack of cleanliness and sanitizing and all of that. And I think that's part of what the camera was set up to try and catch. And it caught so much more than anyone ever expected. I have personally spoken to people who lodged complaints against the Wolcott ACO for the way he treated people and his plans of putting down particular dogs. So this has been like an ongoing thing. There's even a rescue who took a dog from there, and it came with so many issues that I don't know this full story, but I'm just reporting what I've seen. The dog had so many issues that they ended up, even after extensive training, having to put the dog down. He was no longer adoptable. So that's, for someone who's supposed to be protecting a dog, caring for a dog, to just ruin it is unthinkable. And hopefully this arrest and hopefully subsequent sentencing, penalties, anything, sends a message to those who think they're above the law that this is not acceptable. Like I said, unfortunately, across the country and even in our own state, there are so many out there who just have a sense that they're nobody's animals and they don't count. And that's so untrue. Every animal counts. And just because an animal is lost or abandoned doesn't mean that it's okay to abuse it. There's no call for that. You know, some animals come from an abusive situation, and these people who are supposed to be sheltering them are just perpetuating the abuse. Some of these dogs who are truly lost have never been abused a day in their lives, and they're subjected not only to the fear from being lost and away from home and in a shelter where they don't know what's going on. They've never been in an environment like that before, and they're suffering abuse at the hands of the people who are supposed to be caring for them. It's just unthinkable. It's unimaginable that, you know, these animals are having to go through it. And unfortunately, not every person in authority is as receptive to complaints as the chief of police in Woolkit is. And I have to say kudos to him for listening to the public and listening to, you know, people's gut instinct about things being wrong, and taking heed and doing something and taking action and letting it get to this point. You know, I know he's an animal lover, and there's, whether you are or you aren't, it's still not right. So in any case, kudos to Chief Stevens for taking action, because he's really made a difference. And like I said, hopefully this sends a message. There's far too many others who need to step up to the plate and do the right thing. Unfortunately, many of the animal control officers are part of the municipalities. I've always had trouble with that word. Part of the municipalities, and you know, they fall under that wall of silence, because it's all, you know, they report to the police departments and all that, and that's just, it's not right. There's a number of them out there in this state that you know, seem to be like, you know, the big boy brotherhood, and are untouchable, and nobody wants to hear the complaints, and they're out there. So, you know, it's a really sad thing that wrongdoing, even when reported, is just swept under the carpet. It's up to the public to be vigilant, you know. Sure, it's hard to go to the pounds, and there are people who do religiously. And really, if you get a feel for what's going on, you'll know. You know, is the place dirty all the time? I mean, some point in time, it's got to be clean. Yeah, dogs are going to do their business, and you know, it's going to be, you can't clean up every mess every time. But if it's consistently dirty, and you can kind of tell if it's been neglected, if it's a job that's been neglected, you know, if the animals are cowering away from the people who work there, if there's rough handling and the people don't seem to have patience for the animals, these are all clues that there's something going on. I mean, if every animal is cowering away from, you know, an animal control officer as they're trying to take them out or handle them, you know, it's not just then one animal that might be afraid. It's all of them. So it's definitely something that the people who do visit the pounds should be aware of. And, you know, if you make a complaint and it falls on what seems to be deaf ears, you've got to take that like a step further. You've got to find out the chain of command in your locality, and you've got to keep it going, because the animals don't deserve it. You know, animals in these municipal facilities should be advertised. They should be promoted. They should be networked and shown. You know, not all of the pounds are on Facebook and Pet Finder, so this is a chance, I always say this, for you to get involved. Try to befriend your local pound and help promote these animals, because, you know, granted, it's not an easy job, you know. The animal control officers do not have an easy job, and they get overwhelmed. So if you can help fill in the blanks, fill in the cracks, fill in the voids, and promote these animals, it's a great help, and they don't have to sit there in silence. And it's also a way to get your foot in the door and make sure that things seem right, because if they don't seem right, follow your heart. They're probably not. And if you're wrong, you're wrong, but the animals are worth the fight, and the animals are worth you getting involved. You know, the sense that strays are nobodies just doesn't doesn't cut it. And it's really, like I said, it's not entitlement to abuse them. It's not fair. And I understand that some shelters, some municipal shelters, dog pounds, feel that they're not necessarily a shelter by definition. They're only holding facilities. But that doesn't mean, again, that the animals don't deserve, to be cared for. They don't deserve less in the way of care or compassion. There's too many instances where they're just, they've never been loved. They're in a shelter. The shelter people don't necessarily care. Some do, some don't. And they're just, their last days are misery, and it's not acceptable. I have personally had animal control officers say, it's easier to kill them than clean up after them. I'm not in this job to protect animals from people. I'm in this job to protect people from animals. That's the kind of thinking that's just not acceptable. Unfortunately, statements like that are not necessarily something you can take action on. It's appalling, and it's completely not right. But it's a mindset, unfortunately, and I'm not sure why these people actually get involved in animal control, other than perhaps maybe because it feeds their ego. They get to be the big bad in charge, and maybe they don't relate well with people, so they can push animals around and abuse them. It boggles my mind, because clearly, I could never imagine wanting to be that way with an animal. And really, we have a lot of work to do, all of us, to keep animals safe. You think that it's just out on the streets and in bad homes and in bad situations that we need to step up to the plate and protect our animals. But, again, if they're in a shelter and they're not safe from harm, from abuse, from neglect, then we really and truly do have a very, very long road ahead of us, all of us. But really, back to the fact that being an ACO is not an easy job. There were comments on one of the threads about this incident in Wolcott. Oh yeah, I'll take that job, being around dogs all day, woohoo. It's not that easy. Unfortunately, animal control officers have to deal with a lot of ugly stuff that you don't even think about. They have to get involved with cruelty cases, where animals are starved, beaten, neglected, abandoned. They see things that the normal person, the average person, would never want to see. They're the ones who are picking up dogs and cats who were hit by cars, whether they were dead or alive, and having to, if there is a way to contact the owner, they have to contact the owner and tell them, hey, look, Fluffy was just picked up off the street and there was really not much left. Pretty sad stuff. Not for the faint of heart, for real. Some of these ACOs who really, really care and, love these animals and want the best for them, they're fighting against the imposed time limits that they are mandated to, kill an animal under. If the dog's not adopted, the cat's not adopted, well, guess what? Time's up. The order comes from up above, and they have to do it. That's not what they're in the job for. The ones that really care, that's not what they want to do. Unfortunately, it's part of the job, and the ones that really care are fighting tooth and nail to get those dogs adopted and to get those animals into safe homes. And there are plenty of them out there. Don't get me wrong, this isn't an ACO bashing ceremony here, because I have nothing but respect for the people who do the job and do it with their heart and do it well. I know a number of them myself that really do care and give it their all, and I applaud them. It's not a job that I could do. I've had on a number of cases, oh, why don't you become, no, because you know what, I can't deal with all the ugly stuff. I know I can't. I'd probably go to jail in a lot of those instances where I had to deal with someone who abused, neglected an animal. You know, I know I couldn't do it. You know, part of the job is also to deal with the sick and the injured that come in. You know, when there's no municipal funds to treat these animals that could be fixed, healed, cured, the mandate comes to put them down. How must that feel? You know, this dog could be saved, but we don't have the money, so we're just going to give it a lethal injection. You know, they have to deal with that. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? I don't know. You know, animal control officers, there's a lot they deal with, you know. When there's a parvo outbreak, again, the municipality's not going to give out the money to treat these dogs and necessarily save every one of them. So just because a dog gets sick with a treatable disease, bam, the mandate comes down and they have to follow their orders. You know, there's cleaning kennels. There's not always staff to do that. So, you know, you've got 10, 20, 40 more kennels. They're spending a whole day cleaning messes. You know, these animals have to be fed. It's not an easy job. And like I said, I totally give them all the credit in the world for doing what they do when they do it with their hearts. You know, they really are the shining stars, and they go to work and they fight the battle every day on behalf of the animals. And, you know, the things they see and experience would send you running home crying. I've been close enough to a lot of situations where I gotten a feel for it, and I'm good where I stand. Believe me, I don't want to get any closer. You know, I post a lot of stuff on my Facebook page of, you know, abused animals and neglected animals, and this is what the animal control officers have to deal with. It's not a pretty thing, and the ones that are in there doing it every day, it must wear you down. How do you sleep at night? I don't know. But the flip side of it is, you know, like what happened this week in Wilkett. You know, there are the bad guys out there. And the stories that I've posted plenty of stuff like that on Facebook too. And I've talked about it here on the show. You know, there are across the country those who just don't care, who manhandle them, who, you know, hurt them. There's good and bad of all kinds, and I just truly, truly hope that the events this week send a message. I hope it starts a movement. Again, if you see something, say something, because, you know, you could make the difference. There's nothing that can change the fact that animals did suffer at the hands of the Wilkett ACO, but now, again, thanks to the positive actions of the chief, it will never happen again. And that's all that matters. And like I said, I just hope that the punishment fits the crime and isn't dismissed, because that would certainly send the wrong message that it's okay. You know, you can say that maybe what happened there is not that terrible compared to some of the other things that I've reported on. I think I've mentioned how, you know, there are these gas chamber facilities that put the dogs in there, and before they turn on the gas, they let the dogs fight. You know, there was something not too long ago about a dog who had its foot caught in a grate, and a guy yanked it and broke the dog's leg. It was on its way to be put down anyway. I mean, you know, why? So it's a tough world. It's a tough thing to. It's just a lot to take in, and it's hard to understand. And I can't encourage everybody enough to get involved in some way or another. And that's kind of like all she wrote with that. I know I've been ranting and raving about it, but you know, it hits home when you see stuff like this, and it is very close to home because it's, you know, it's right in our own backyard here in Waterbury. So follow the story, and let's share it everywhere, just for the sake of sending that message that it's not acceptable, and you know, someone else could be next if they're not doing it. And really, thank you to all the animal control officers who do care and put their all into it every day. You know, if you know an animal control officer, say thank you, because it's not easy. So we've got some happy news that I'm going to move on to, because I can. There was a dog that we were all concerned about that was found in the search for Rudy, and we kind of dubbed him Rudy 2, because he was very similar looking to Rudy, and that's what brought about the attention. It was like, wow, is that Rudy? And we kind of figured that after the fact that he was, this other dog who was spotted at the college when we thought it was Rudy and whatever. But anyway, he ended up at the Waterbury Pound, and they named him Romeo. And he was there for a few weeks now, I would say, and was available for adoption these last few weeks. And he was adopted this week. So Zach, let's have a picture of Rudy 2, aka Romeo, now known as Bruiser. There he is, home in his bed. There's like no better picture than the happily ever after. And I have to thank Carla Santos for keeping me up to date and actually sending me a couple of pictures of Bruiser in his new home. And you know, he really does have like that Rudy look, except he's more pitty. You know, the coloring and all that he was like almost a dead ringer if you didn't know what you were looking for. But there he is in all his glory. And congratulations, Bruiser, and I hope you have a happy life. I love the happily ever afters. Okay, Zach, I will take the camera back, and we will talk about one of my favorite dogs ever. Coco is a dog who I have championed for since the early days of her time in the New Haven shelter. You know, poor Coco was a dog I wrote about and said, you know, she can't get a break. She was found roaming. She was sent to the pound. She was adopted to a family who had some issues with her, and they brought her back to the pound. And then they cried they wanted her back, and then they brought her back to the pound, and then her time was up, and 20 Paws Rescue stepped up and saved her. And you know, for all intents and purposes, thought they found, you know, her forever home. But unfortunately, that turned into its own little nightmare, and she was handed off to a relative, and there was some question about her care. So 20 Paws Rescue thankfully kept up on things and took her back. And then, you know, she remained in upstate New York. Today, thank you to the Liberty Train and Rescue, a group of volunteers who recruits drivers. Coco made her way back to Connecticut. Can we get the picture, Zach, of Coco's Freedom Ride? She is back to Connecticut as of this afternoon. There's my baby girl, and she is going to be staying at John Gagnon's. Now, I was invited to, you could just roll through them. Yep, there you go. She had about 4 different drivers take her from upstate New York to John Gagnon's. There's Candace Bouchard, bless her heart. She has, I've had some dealings with her with animals on Facebook, and she is a sweetheart. I posted the plea for people to fill her transport, and Candace stepped up, so thank you especially to Candace and to everybody, and glad they had safe travels. But I was invited to be there when Coco arrived, but I couldn't because I had to be here. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to pull myself away, and traveling would probably be, you know, who knows how long it would have taken me if I hit traffic. I couldn't justify calculating it that close, you know what I mean? So I missed the party, but I have permission to go see her, and you can bet your sweet neck I am going to visit Coco. I have loved her from afar for a couple of years now at least, and I will finally get to wrap my arms around her neck and give her some love. And I am so looking forward to that. But welcome back to Connecticut, Coco. And, you know, I was joking around with Marie Marsh, who I have mentioned before, who has been Coco's strongest supporter all the way over in England, still an admin on her page. You know, I said, I'm going to cry, and she was teasing me this afternoon, but haha, I got through the segment without crying, so, meh. All right, I'll take the camera back, and I'm still not teared up, so there. I cry over happy stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can't help myself. I cry at adoptions. I make no mistake, you know, I don't try to hide that. You know, make no mistake, I'm an emotional idiot. Yeah, I am. When it comes to the end, I'm stone cold about people, but you give me anything about the animals, and I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten more involved in things and seen more and more in my life, I get very, very emotional. I've had plenty of cause to get emotional with some of the deadlines that I've been up against to try to help get animals adopted, and you know, it is what it is. Anyway, how much time do I have, Zach? All right, well, I am going to close the show with a little bit of a tribute. Any of you who remember when Alice and Leo had Blackjack on the show, he was quite entertaining. You know, he did his Elvis impression, you know, if you remember that. He, you know, answered the question, you know, what is that on top of the building with the roof? He was quite the ham, and he tried to commandeer the couch, and he couldn't do it. He was fighting cancer, and Allison was, you know, treating him homeopathically, and she explained to us what her treatment plan was. Sadly, he beat the cancer, but it just ravaged his bones, and he was too big a dog, you know, to live with, to compromise, and he crossed the bridge yesterday. So our condolences to Allison. And rest in peace, Blackjack. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for coming on the show. I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. And now we're going to remember Blackjack.